Mark, we only have you for, 10 minutes today?
Well, wait, it's a very important day.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yes, I'm only here for a little while. It was a thrill to be here last week.
Yay.
Surprise everybody. Now you're sick of me. So I'll just be here for some of the show, and then I will leave it in the way more capable hands of Tim Cogshell.
So where are you off to now?
Well, I'm off to Paris.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Paris for another few months. If I'm lucky, maybe I'll get some work. If I'm not lucky, I'm going to run out of money and come back to the States.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens.
You'll be a star.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We'll see.
You will be in the next.
I still want to try to get him to do a little reporting from Paris. Just toss us an MP3 anytime you see something kind of Paris-y.
What would I do? What would be a sort of thing that I would do? What would my Paris beat be that would make sense to the DigiGods listeners?
You would sell...
See, there's nothing. You're making it up because there's nothing. I'm not going to report on French films. They're all terrible, and I don't understand them because I don't understand French.
You can report on food. You could send us great recipes.
Food.
You could tell us what it's like to run a little crepe cart. In downtown Paris. You will make crepes for people.
You know what I would?
Lemon on a little honey.
You know what I would love to do? I was thinking about this. You wouldn't make money doing this, but it'd be fun. Make a deal with like a restaurant or a bar and have some sort of open mic comedy night for English only comedians to goof on life in France. Oh. You know that there's like comics or funny people or even performance artists who want to have 7 minutes talking about in English talking about how crazy it is to live in Paris.
Yeah,
and I
sort of David Sedaris kind of.
Yeah. I would make a deal with the back room of some restaurant, and I would say, just give me half the. Whatever money you make on booze and food for people who come and watch this thing, give me 25% of it, and then I'll bring some people in.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. That would be cool. Now, I couldn't make a living at that, but that would be cool.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
And then I'd kill myself because I'm poor and I have no money.
Hey, how's Solo going to be? Do we have any opinions about Solo?
It's tracking huge.
Is it?
But of course, will anybody like it?
Yeah.
It depends. If it feels like this weird Frankenstein movie that was half directed by one duo and then half directed by like Opie, it's going to be weird.
This is the thing that I find interesting about Solo. The movie's called Solo, Han Solo.
Yeah.
Right. Yet the biggest star, the most well-known person, the human being who is an actor on that one sheet is the black kid.
Yeah.
Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
Donnell Glover. Donnell Glover has a television show. He's a rap star. He's a movie star.
Speaking of, how'd they get to have that title? Solo is a movie about Mario Van Peebles as an android.
Yeah, I remember
made
that.
20 years ago that my wife worked on.
A bald android.
Yeah.
I remember.
My wife worked on that.
I didn't know.
I remember every second of that movie really, really well. Yeah. The director and the editing, the whole thing. I remember it. really well.
It does strike me interesting though that because the kid playing Han Solo.
Yeah.
He was in that
He was in the Warren Beatty film.
Yeah. And I think
he's cool. There's something there. But
But
what's interesting too is and this is for like the film school nerds and theorists and whatnot. People always say, "Oh, the names of characters in movies seem so generic and just like, oh, they just pulled the name out of their butt." No. Like the best film character names usually mean something. Either it is an overt or not overt way. And you look at a guy named Solo. Why is his name Solo? Han Solo. It sounds like arbitrary and kind of alien. No, his name is Solo because he goes it alone.
Except he's not ever. But,
right, but like
why is the other guy's name Luke Skywalker? Well, because he.
It's better than what he was before. Star Killer.
Yeah.
You can't have him named Star Killer.
Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That
but
sounds
I love
cool.
It. I love it.
Just a cool
What
name.
I'm wondering is this, and I'm wondering if Donnell is going to do what would be really bright.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he's going to bring an ever so slightly Billy D thing to it.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Because Billy D has a very
will.
particular presentation.
He's got to suggest that.
Yeah, and don't go over the top or anything, but if you just bring a little bit of that Billy D in.
Yeah, no, Billy D captured, he encapsulated for a certain generation, and this goes even before Star Wars. This is 1970s.
Oh, the Brian song. All the way back, yeah.
He just there was an elegance, right? There was just like a smooth, just that velvety voice. It all just, the hair was always just so perfectly done.
Yeah.
That mustache looked like he spent an hour grooming it. Right, everything about Billy D was just sculpted.
Billy D. Williams in Mahogany, opposite Diana
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, he's so
changed the black. It was a moment in the black community, because there had been Sidney, and there had been Harry, and
Sure.
that was all about stuff. But no, that was just Billy D. Williams, hot for Diana Ross because she's fine as hell. And we're like, go, Billy, go. but because you felt like he might do it.
Yeah.
And it was just a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, no, he's
He was as cool as the other side of the pillow.
I'm sure that there you go.
I love
that. That's it. All right.
So the point being is that we don't know how. Also, at what point will there be diminishing returns for these Disney shoving Star Wars films down our throat like a duck gets fed to be made into foie gras?
Yeah,
it's going to be too much.
It started to diminish for me already.
But wait a second. But people
still there. I'm gone.
No. People thought that about Marvel forever. And then, like we said last week, just when you're sick of it, they throw you the curve. Yeah. Here comes Guardians. These are too serious. Here comes Ant-Man.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And so, I don't know, man. If Disney plays it like Marvel... Now, of course, Kevin Feige is such a maestro in terms of planting the seed and knowing when to give and when to take away and just getting us... Nobody on the Lucasfilm side, I don't know, is that clever. Is Kathleen Kennedy that clever in terms of like...
They don't have their bearings yet, and they don't have their bearings for the same reason that DC doesn't really have their bearings, which is that there's no one godfathering the unit that is nerdily infatuated with it. That seems to be the thing. What makes Pixar work is that the guys that worked at Pixar, they just live, eat, breathe, and drink Pixar all day long. That's all they do. It's their culture. They just love these movies. And it's the same thing with Feige. Feige loves Marvel. Marvel is his life. It's just he's devoted himself to it. I don't know that Kathleen Kennedy is a real Star Wars aficionado. I think she's approaching it like a businesswoman. And I love Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's great. But I think she needs someone there. And maybe, JJ's not a producer. JJ's a filmmaker. He's a writer, primarily. JJ would be a good person to godfather it, but I don't think he wants to.
I'm not even sure how much he wanted to direct 9. I think he had to direct 9.
Yeah.
There was pressure for him to direct 9 because who's going to do it? The directors seem to be, when you look at the Lucasfilm Star Wars, like the Disney Star Wars films, you know how many directors they've lost? They fired?
Yeah.
In just the course of like 3 movies, they fired like 4 directors.
Yeah.
So I think
it's the same thing with DC. Look at how many of those films.
Oh, but they thought they thought Zach would be the guy to Snyder but no, he didn't have the correct sensibility.
They lost 2 directors on Batman before Matt finally came on. They lost a director on Wonder Woman. They lost a director on Aquaman, and Flash both lost directors. I mean it's a similar thing.
And then they made a mistake and kept the director on Fantastic Four.
Oh my god,
who they should have fired.
Those are dreadful movies.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it'll be interesting to see. Solo.
Yes, Tim.
The Tim Story movies made money.
Which did?
The Fantastic Four Tim Story movies.
They did. Yeah, they did.
If you release those today,
if you
release those today, you'd be like, "This is lame compared to all the great stuff we get now."
Yeah, really sort of bizarre. Yeah.
But they did make money. They had that one that reboot was just such a mistake.
That's the guy they should have fired.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that Fox, and I'll take off, and you guys can do DVDs and Blu-rays. But it's funny how Fox has done a pretty good job with their Marvel movies. I think the X-Men movies are pretty good. They're a little more adult and a little less popcorny than some of the Marvel films are. They have Deadpool.
What I think they did that was smart is that they followed the Marvel strategy in building the X-Men world. The X-Men Marvel universe at Fox is a little bit different, but it still follows a similar pattern of setting up another movie at the end of each thing. They still have the teases. They're still building a broader world. They have the smarts to bring in a younger X-Men crew.
Those movies are not, after Bryan Singer anyway, those movies stopped being about the directors.
Yeah.
The X-Men movies are not Bryan Singer was the last time that it was about the directors. The Marvel universe and the DC universe, the directors still matter.
Yeah.
Those Russo boys, and you can go. You all the way back. But on the other side, it wasn't about the directors. It never was.
Yeah, but Marvel's not making Logan.
True. That's true.
That's a a
brave
film.
move.
That's a brave move, and it was great.
Although isn't it
Oscar
weird?
nominated?
It's what's weird to me is that there was a moment they shifted gears because when you got Wolverine, the idea that was X-Men Origins Wolverine. We were supposed to be getting more origin stories, right? We were going to be doing origin movies for all these different X-Men. And they abandoned that, and they just stuck with Wolverine. I think perhaps because they thought that none of the others were interesting enough that they would justify origin stories. But I guarantee you, if you have an origin story for Magneto, if you go really deep into that, that could be interesting. They hinted at it in 2 other films, all that all the Holocaust connection. But they haven't really gone deep into it. I think you could do a lot with that. So
now all of that stuff, Legion.
Legion on TV.
You know what I'm saying? It's sort of all falls into that now.
And I'll be watching all of it with English subtitles.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bid adieu, au revoir to our listeners. Thank you so much for all the support. Not that I won't ever be back. I mean, I said goodbye 6 months ago. Now here I am doing 2 shows.
Just keep the passport in good order, and
that's it.
If things get too weird,
you're gonna get where you are gonna be the villain of the next Jean Dujardin film. I'm telling you, will be. You are gonna be an OSS villain.
I would. You know what? I would be a PA on the OSS films. I love those movies. They're hilarious. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for having me as a guest. The podcast is in great hands, except for Wade.
Yes, indeed.
See you later, Mark.
All right. And he's off. So we do wish Mark all the best moving forward. I'm telling you, he's going to be a villain in an OSS 117 film. No. We're going to laugh.
The people of France are very lucky.
Yeah, he will be the American villain. All right, so jumping into new movies and relevant new releases. I got a few here. A couple from Warner Brothers. Deep Blue Sea 2. Did anybody really want this?
No. Yeah, I was going to say something clever, but skip that.
Anyway, this is from Warner. It's a Blu-ray, DVD, and Movies Anywhere on this. Nothing really by way of extras, just some featurette material and a gag reel. Deleted scenes. I guess in the CGI era, we can do scarier movies than Jaws, but because we've had so many of them, they aren't scarier than Jaws. And I didn't think the first Deep Blue Sea was all that relevant. And,
Deep Blue Sea, less people forget. A giant shark movie, people trapped in some sort of a high-tech something or other. I remember a great
Rennie
scene. Rennie Harlin,
kind of a sort of semi-comeback for him in a way.
I remember a great scene that involved Samuel Jackson being eaten suddenly by a shark.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I really remember about Deep Blue Sea.
Well,
and LL Cool J. I think LL Cool J.
Rennie Harlan has nothing to do with this one. This is a straight to home video thing, and there's a whole like Alzheimer's thing that's part of this narrative that really doesn't need to be. The way that it dovetails now into this film is rather silly. It's the pharmaceutical angle. Anyway, I don't know. I guess if you like the first one, you'll probably have something. Batman Ninja is really great. Could I just say that? Batman Ninja, DC animated movie, Blu-ray, DVD, and Movies Anywhere. This is basically anime Batman. It's tremendous. It's just tremendous. So impressive. Really cool. Great idea. Amazingly cool animation. I just think it's great. I just think it's absolutely terrific. It's Batman all basically done anime style, and it's great. It's absolutely great. And, we've had Batman in feudal Japan, which is also really great. And this just looks so great. I don't know. I hope they do more of this. The Japanese anime artists are just so good. And if you see no other DC animated movie in your life, this is the one to start with. It's really great. It's just so impressive. Probably should have included that with the anime stuff, but which we're going to get to shortly. And then these two, I will make quick mention of. This is both straight to DVD. Blood and Glory, which is a respectable indie period thing. I kind of want to call it a Western, but it isn't really. It's not a traditional Western. It takes place in 1901, and it's sort of it's basically takes place during the Boer Wars in South Africa, which is for that country kind of a Western moment. It feels like an American Western, feels a little bit like an Australian Western in some respects, feels a little bit like a Civil War movie in some respects. If you don't know the history of the Boer War, you might want to check it out. This is a long movie, 2.25, Blood and Country, presumably, quote-unquote, inspired by true events. This is from Cleopatra Entertainment by way of MVD Visual, and it has a director's commentary and deleted scenes. But really check it out. Some really good acting in here by people that I've seen them in a few things. Charlotte Salt I've seen in Beowulf and The Tudors, and then Nick Cornwall in Retribution. So, these are not, big names, but it's a good film. It's worth checking out. The Boer War story, Blood and Glory. The Manor, which comes to us from Lionsgate. This is a straight-to-DVD thing from Lionsgate. Christina Robinson from Dexter is the star of this kind of creepy horror film where there's just these bizarre relatives that how do we even describe this? It is it's basically it's like Hills Have Eyes, except not with Michael Berryman and not in the mountains. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Anyway, a woman comes out of an asylum, and the world is crazier on the outside than it was on the inside. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. Anyway, it's a decent little horror film. It's straight to DVD. Some pretty respectably done. Directed by Jonathan Schermerhorn, who I've never heard of, but he's got some skills.
Got a few more?
Yeah, no, go ahead, hit those.
The Winchester movie, which I thought was a little bit interesting. Helen Mirren playing Sarah Winchester, who, of course, was the heir to the Winchester, rifle fortune. Yeah. Built this house, started building right outside San Francisco, 7-story house, hundreds and hundreds of rooms. It's always been rumored that it was a haunted house. It is an interesting place. It has all kinds of doors to go to nowhere, staircases that end in nowhere, wacky stuff like that. Anyway, it's a neat fodder for a ghost story, which is what this is, and actually a fairly effective one. If you like your ghost stories, spooky and well acted by Helen Mirren and Jason Clarke. Special feature driven by the spirits, sort of making of the movie kind of thing. Blu-ray, DVD, and digital download. Cool. Winchester. Dakota Fanning, Toni Collette, Alice Eve. Neat little movie, please stand by. About an autistic young woman who has a particular obsession with Star Trek. And she sort of gets away from her caregiver and takes this journey, this little cross-country journey, to go and deliver her script for a Star Trek screenwriting competition. Look, this is,
It sounds better in concept than it is in execution. Yeah.
In terms of execution, the autistic thing is kind of complicated to begin with.
I'm not sure it even needed that.
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't need it because 9 times out of 10 you're going to get it wrong. And there's an obsession with certain kinds of Star Trek fans that you can give this idea to anyway.
You don't. Yeah, you didn't need that.
Without making them autistic.
I was so angry about all of the retconning in Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. The way that it just ignored things from the previous movie and that it reinvented things. It ignored stuff. Even from Space Seed, the episode that it is ostensibly based on, that they got the order of planets wrong, the way that they orbited all these things that were wrong in it. I wrote a 25-page handwritten letter to the editor of Starlog magazine, which I never mailed. It was just me, venting my spleen over how much I hated Wrath of Khan, which, good thing Mark's not here to hear this. Because I'm a Star Trek motion picture guy. I like 1 and 5, the two that everyone else hates. But
I like 1.
I love 1, and I like 5, the Shatner directed one that everyone bags on.
Because everybody loves Wrath of Khan. Everybody loves the ones where they put Spock in the giant sunglass case, as they said on Seinfeld. As they said on Seinfeld. Interesting, but they didn't need to make her autistic in order to make this work. Make her a little bit younger and just send her off on the journey. Yeah. Patton Oswalt actually quite good in this little movie. So it's not terrible. Deleted scenes, making of, please stand by. Not terrible at all.
I got a couple of new 4Ks here. Now, this is really interesting what's going on here. So Summit, who is a sister company to Lionsgate, Summit has these movies in its library, and we covered one of them last week, and they're trying to apparently do something that the studios are not doing. The major studios. The major studios are putting out onto 4K things that are either brand new or very high profile things. Like last week we had Private Ryan. Mm-hmm. So super high profile, relatively recent classics from the last 20, 30 years. And then things like Die Hard is going to make its 4K debut. So they're doing that stuff, and then also new films. That's not exactly what Summit is doing. Summit has this library of movies that are somewhat forgotten. They kind of came and went. They're wide release movies. They're big budget movies, but they aren't memorable. They're not classics. So they're trying to give them a second lease on life by kicking them out on 4K. Mm-hmm. And hope that people who are 4K adopters will look at the slim picking on the shelf or online and go, oh, look, a new 4K movie. Well, I just need to bone up about something that looks interesting. Why not? I'll take a chance.
And some of these movies were big. I mean, not some of them. All of them were fairly big movies.
They're big
star movies.
So the two we have here are both from 2009, both Summit films, both on 4K now, with Ultra HD disc, a Blu-ray disc, and an ultraviolet copy on here as well, which Lionsgate is still married to. Not yet movies anywhere. Ultraviolet still. The first one is Knowing, a Nick Cage apocalypse movie from 2009, which is, silly and very Nick Cagey and not as bad as what he's done more recently. Directed by Alex Proyas.
He's wearing his superhero hair in that one.
Yes, he is. And Alex Proyas, very capable director who did, the original The Crow.
Yeah.
That's how he started. And then Dark City. And Alex Proyas has done some cool stuff. So it has a lot of style. The whole apocalyptic plot is a little bit of a cross between Da Vinci Code and I don't know, like one of those Christian apocalypse movies that Nick Cage was in. The Carried Away or Swept Away.
Taken
Away, yeah. So it's a little bit like a cross between those, but it's not great. But you know what? In 4K, it kind of scratches the itch. The other one is the better film, Push, also from 2009. Push is kind of like a second tier, again with Dakota Fanning, kind of like a second tier X-Men film. It's like X-Men without being in the X-Men world.
Yeah.
These people with superpowers who've got to flee the government, and they're on the run, and they got to use their powers and work together. Chris Evans, before he was Captain America.
Yeah, after he was Johnny Storm, but before he was
Johnny Storm.
Captain America. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dakota Fanning, Camilla Bell, and Jaimin Hunsu. It's a good cast. It's a
pretty good little movie. I saw that movie. I liked it.
It's not bad.
It's
special
effects and the plot line, all that stuff.
Yeah, Paul McGuigan, who directed it, a real solid director, and David Borla. Don't know him, but he wrote the script. It's a decent little script. And
Paul directed Lucky Number 11.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Lucky Number 11, which I liked.
Yeah.
So Push is probably the better of the two here, but both of them will do right by your 4K system. They're both really, really nice transfers, and Summit is doing a good job with the mastering.
What are we doing? You want to knock off a couple of these movies before we go on to the television?
Yeah, let's hit those two.
To the side here. I got Bent, Carl Urban, Sofia Vergara, and Andy Garcia. This is an okay little movie. Ex-cop, drug bust goes wrong, one of those kind of things. A guy finds out that he's actually a deep cover CIA agent. One of those kind of things. It's a perfectly okay little movie. Sophia, I've come to think of her and so closely see her related to that television show.
Yeah.
What is it? The Family, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I have a little hard time watching her with a badge around her neck holding a gun. At least if she's not pointing at it. But what the heck? It's actually an okay little movie. Special features behind the scenes of Bent cast and crew interviews, Blu-ray and digital.
So here's a really interesting, unusual movie that completely slipped me by. This is from Lionsgate, which includes Ultraviolet, Blu-ray with Ultraviolet. It's called The Forgiven, starring Eric Bana and an almost unrecognizable Forrest Whitaker as Desmond Tutu. Forrest Whitaker puts on a prosthetic nose to become Desmond Tutu and does a really good job of it. He's virtually unrecognizable. If you pay attention to his mouth, it's pretty good. But considering that you go from Idi Amin to Desmond Tutu, not bad, Forrest. Really not bad. Not bad at all.
Roland Joffe film, man.
Yeah, Roland Joffe's he's still out there. He's kind of on the fringes, right? But he's still kicking it. The guy who did,
the Mission and Killing
Mission. Yeah. So and he co-wrote the script of this and co-produced it as well. So it's entirely his thing. But it's a really interesting story. It's not. The movie's a little bit underbaked, but it deserved better than it got, I think, from in public exposure. It all kind of deals with a murderer who is seeking clemency, played by Eric Bana, who is visited by Desmond Tutu, and what transpires from this, which I can't really get into. The turns of it are very interesting. Actually happened, and it's really quite interesting, and I'm surprised that I didn't even know about the original story, that there was this moment between this convicted felon and Desmond Tutu, that this thing happened and that the news didn't really pick up on it and run with it. This story was kind of under the radar.
It's shaped a little bit like, and this is not exactly analogous, but a little bit like Dead Man Walking. If you remember the Sean Penn with Sister Helen Prejean and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely analogous. Very similar story, in fact. Yeah. And two really great actors. I mean, Eric Bana is just so good.
What happened to Eric in terms of the A-list American movies?
You know what happened? Two things happened. Hulk and Henry VIII.
Really?
That's what happened. He played Hulk. Didn't really pan out. Otherwise, he'd be making bank in all these Avengers movies. But same for Ed Norton. They just weren't they weren't the banner that everybody was looking for.
Yeah.
And then he went on to play Henry VIII in that movie, and he ain't Henry VIII.
Well, yeah, the other Boylan sister,
the other Boleyn,
like Eric, you're handsome. Henry wasn't.
No,
you're also not a redhead.
You're also not obese.
What are you doing? TV?
Let's hit TV.
A little bit of TV. Dear White People. Look, this was a really neat little movie from a couple of years ago. And when they decided to do the series, I was kind of critical. 2014 film.
Yeah.
I was kind of critical because, I saw this thing starting to happen. Spike Lee doing She's Gotta Have It as television. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Are we doing this now?
We're doing the MASH thing. We're taking a hit movie and we're going to turn it into a series and really try to milk it for as long
as we possibly can. And look, man, I want everybody to get paid as much as the next guy, but usually these things are terrible.
Yeah.
This is not.
I know.
This is actually quite good. So this is season 1 of Dear White People. It's still funny mostly.
Yeah.
Sharp and biting.
They found an angle. And I have to be honest, I had the same feeling because you watch the movie and I kind of felt like, well, everything he has to say on this topic is in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how you turn this into a weekly thing. I don't know. It's going to be the same jokes over and over. But it's not actually. They found a groove, they found an angle, and it's complementary to the film.
It veers off. It's way less judgmental. Same thing with She's Gotta Have It. By the way, it took me a while to get into. Not that we're talking about that at the moment. This is Dear
Which
White
I have
People,
not yet watched.
And again, critical for all the same reasons. This is what I like about it. Every single episode is written by a woman, mostly Spike's daughter, and other women.
How old is Spike's daughter?
About 26.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And actually has an older one too. And the thing that I don't like about She's Gotta Have It is that Spike directed every episode.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have done that. He should have let the girls have it all. You know, I mean, he set the stage. Go over there and let's see what they do. But he had to be hanging around. Dad. Anyway, go ahead. Good show, though. I do like it.
Got some old comedy for you, old TV comedy. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, the complete 4th season, which is really in a groove. 4th season is considered one of the best, and for a very good reason. It's the writing is sharp, the editing is sharp. They're in a groove. They got the formula. Everybody kind of knows what they got to do, and it has some of these really, really unbelievably classic moments with Don Rickles and Sammy Davis Jr. and Wilt Chamberlain. One of the all-time great laugh-in moments. Goldie Hawn came back to the show in the 4th season as an Oscar winner.
Yeah. Butterflies? No, flower. What?
Cactus flower.
Cactus flower. Yeah.
Cactus flower. Yeah. And a lot of unbelievable guest stars on here. Debbie Reynolds shows up. Carol Channing. Bing Crosby, Tim Conway, Bob Newhart, Rod Serling. It's just Flip Wilson. It's a really
one of the things I loved about Laugh-In over the course of its run, that season in particular, is you saw all kinds of black and brown folks on that show, including James Baldwin, including Jim Brown. You would see dancing around in that room. Yeah. They're all dancing there. Yeah. Teresa Graves on that show. Yeah. So it's a really interesting thing that a show that long ago, that's 50 years ago now, archived a sort of interaction that you don't even see that much now on television. But it just goes to show the way things,
And these transfers are really good. Time Life really, really nailed it. I mean, they kept the masters really clean, and they've done a really good job. So,
and by the way, Rowan and Martin, they are funny.
Oh yeah.
Those little things, that was hysterical, dude. Yeah. That was so funny and topical, but still funny even to this day.
It changed television and it changed the culture. As did Jackie Gleason. Yeah. We have a 3 DVD deluxe edition of the Jackie Gleason show in color with 7 unreleased Honeymooners sketches on here, which are terrific. And again, great guest stars, including obviously Milton Berle, who was always there with Jackie Gleason, Jack Benny, George Burns, Mickey Rooney, Groucho Marx. It goes on and on and on. This includes 12 never-before-released episodes of The Jackie Gleason Show, remastered and in full color. And then those 7 great Honeymooner sketches. It's funny stuff.
There are 12 unreleased episodes of The Jackie Gleason Show?
And what's unbelievable about this never before released. I mean, aired on TV, but
never before released.
Never before released
That's insane,
at all. Yeah. And I haven't seen these since I was a kid. And I mean, I was little. I remember sitting there with my mother and my father. We had a black and white TV, a 12-inch black and white TV. I never saw this in color, but I remember the openings. He shot the show. They aired it live from Miami Beach, where you're going over the water live from Miami Beach, and this helicopter shot going over the ocean and coming in on the hotel. I remember that really, really well, and I was little, man. I was really, really little, but it's amazing to see it in color. It's like watching it the first time again. Jackie Gleason, legendary television figure, and this is just great stuff.
Fantastic, man. Shameless. This is the complete 8th season of Shameless. I will admit that I did not start watching this show until a friend of mine sort of turned me on to it. I don't know, probably less than a year ago. And I sort of fell into it in a certain spot. She was like, no, go back to the beginning, go back to the beginning. So I did. I went back to the beginning and started watching it from season 1. I didn't think I was going to like it because, frankly, I don't like drunks. Generally speaking, and all of the sort of mayhem that goes with that sort of general sort of thing. There's a thing going on in the show, though, which, had I watched it, I would have caught on to right away. So the show is not about him.
Yeah.
The show is about her. The show is about the daughter, his eldest daughter, and how she holds this whole big crazy family together with all its difference going on, and him as a father, despite him. By the time you get to season 8, and actually this would have happened in season 7, so I won't be giving anything away. This girl is rich, and owns property and everything. And I'm like, you know what? I think I went back and watched my way all the way up to and I like the show actually quite a lot. Shameless. It's not about what you think it's about.
Good stuff.
Special features, a couple of featurettes, blah, blah, blah. Neat stuff.
A little bit of British television and related things here, mostly from Acorn, but we got one from PBS, Unforgotten, the complete first season, part of Masterpiece Mystery, which is a really, really interesting show. Nicola Walker, who previously appeared in Last Tango in Halifax, plays DCI Cassie Stewart, super smart detective, who is basically dealing with kind of cold cases. And her partner is played by Sanjeev Bhaskar, who is formerly of the Indian Doctor, who's really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And the mystery here is quite wicked and really, really well written. It's very, very, very interesting. And my favorite part of this is that old reliable, the aging Tom Courtenay, who is just phenomenal in this. Tom Courtenay is an absolute force of nature. Continues to be a great actor. If you saw Tom Courtenay in Dr. Zhivago 53 years ago, man, he is still kicking it, and he is still going strong, and he is so impressive. He's an even better actor now than he was then. It's really, really great. That is a Blu-ray of PBS's Unforgotten, the complete first season. Just terrific mystery.
Nobody does tough as nails, yet accessible female detectives
Like
the
English.
like the English. You know,
It's
I mean,
amazing.
Helen Mirren, and then
I
all
know.
the prime. I mean, you can go through a dozen of them.
It's great.
Absolutely fantastic.
No, they do. They really nail it. And here's another one, the Brokenwood Mysteries, Series 4 on Blu-ray, which is wonderful. You know, the idea here is that you're the British also love to do crime where there shouldn't be any crime, which is, you know, very Twin Peaksy, out in the middle of some wonderful pastoral area. And Brokenwood is just a wonderful little town. But there's a lot of messy, nasty stuff going on underneath the surface. And Neil Ray plays the detective who's got to kind of get to the bottom of it, along with Fern Sutherland, who's one of those tough as nails women that we're talking about. You know, this of course takes place in New Zealand, but it technically is, you know, we include the Australian and the New Zealand stuff as all part of that British mentality. It's all part of the same cultural undertow. And it's just really well done. It's terrific. And the fact that it, you know, watching this also, I'm looking forward to that second season of the Jane Campion show. Top of the
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, it was on my head.
Which was terrific too. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, Campion.
Ackley Bridge Series 1 from Acorn TV. Not a mystery, not a crime thing. This takes place in Yorkshire in the UK and deals with school integration issues between British students and the children of Pakistani immigrants, and it's really quite. It's kind of illuminating. It doesn't go where you expect it to go. It's not as self-serious as you think it might be, and it really it's kind of hopeful and wrestles with a lot of these issues kind of head on. It takes them, just deals with them, and you know, all sexual issues and ethnic issues and race issues and nationalism and racism and all that stuff. It really tackles it in a very intelligent way. It's really well written. It's Series 1 of Ackley Bridge. And I am very much looking forward to where that show goes. And then lastly here, Midsomer Murders, County Case Files. This is you know, a collection of Midsomer mysteries that just, you know, it's a potpourri of mysteries for people who just don't want to necessarily go and buy all the individual seasons. These were all previously in other series box sets, but you know, this thing's like more than 24 seasons now. So if you just don't want to dig that deep in the seasons. These come from series 17, 16, and 18, and there's really good stuff in here. The Dagger Club is really good. Saints and Sinners, The Flying Club, and The Christmas Haunting is one I always really enjoyed.
Grisella Blanco. Man, the first time I heard about Grisella Blanco, and I think it was on one of those crime detective shows that come on cable. And I was completely captivated by the story of this woman. Blanco, of course, was a Colombian young woman who came to America, kind of a Scarface style, when she was 17 years old, you know, and moved to Queens, saw what was going on in the drug world, particularly to do with cocaine, and ultimately masterminded and built just an absolute gigantic cocaine empire. Her three sons. She was as vicious as Scarface, as Pacino ever played Scarface.
Nasty.
And you know, and she was this woman who sort of became legendary in a particular sort of way. What I liked about the characterization of Grisella by Catherine Zeta-Jones, who stars as her in this particular movie, is she makes her very empathetic. She's just not some crazy nutbag running around doing things. And a lot of what she has to do with pushing back against men, her first husband and second husband and other men who think that they can take advantage of her, and that's their mistake. It's just really, really a neat thing. This is directed by Guillermo Navarro, who was a wonderful cinematographer for years and years and years, Pan's Labyrinth and all kinds of stuff he was the cinematographer on. And also does some directing on the Luke Cage television series and on Preacher and a few other shows that you probably watch on television. So good work here applied to Cocaine Godmother, the Grisella Blanco story.
Fantastic. I like seeing her stretch.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to kick through some anime here, and then we will dive into some of the classic films that we have piled up. From the Made in Japan library is one of the most bizarre anime entries I think I've ever seen. This is basically CGI animated. Yona Penguin is totally entertaining and utterly weird. So there's this 6-year-old girl. She's in a penguin outfit. I won't explain how and why, but she winds up falling into this alternate universe, this mystical kind of Alice in Wonderland, Oz type journey, which winds up being more Lord of the Ringsy than, or even Star Wars than anything else, where she is deemed by the inhabitants of this world to be kind of their Luke Skywalker-y savior, right? And, the usual hero's journey, all that Joseph Campbell stuff. And so she has to, become like a monster demon fighting savior girl in her penguin outfit. It's just weird and charming and totally incredibly weird and original. And it's completely unlike anything else that I've seen in anime in years. So Yona Penguin.
Wild.
Yeah, right. We now have more of this rather, is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? Familia Myth. This is a limited edition 2-disc set. It also includes the OST. Is it wrong to expect a hot spring in a dungeon? Is the specific name of this particular installment of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Long, twisty title. We talked about previous installment of this, and it's risque. It's what are you going to say? This is anime really pushing the envelope, and it's for adults. It's not for kids, but most anime is like that. Don't watch it for the story. Watch it for the titillating artwork, I guess. The titillating animation, which is really, really titillating.
Yeah.
But it is a special edition, so I'm going to recommend it pretty much for fans. It's pricey, so only if you're really, really dedicated to it. Here's what's really interesting. ACCA, 13 Territory Inspection Department, the complete series. All of these now are I'm going to mention are from Funimation. They are all Blu-ray DVD combo sets. And ACCA is quite interesting. It's again mystery and it's fantasy and it's kind of feudal in its background, and it deals with a kind of the feudal politics of the Doa Kingdom and this organization that is known as ACCA, ACCA, which kind of maintains the peace, kind of like a secret society. The mythology of it takes a little bit to sort of adapt to, but that's true of most of these as well. So that's recommended. Interviews with Monster Girls, the complete series, is about demi-humans, which are people who are half demon, half human, who are living in the world and kind of hiding. And it's about a teacher who discovers that there are some around him and decides, I'm going to find out more about them. So he conducts interviews with them. It's really not more complicated than that. It's not great, but it's, it has moments. KADO, The Right Answer, the complete series, is an alien invasion thing, an alien absorption thing. It kind of goes into most of the places that, like, if you're familiar with Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, which was done as a live action thing on Sci-Fi not too long ago. This has aspects of that in it, and it's also got aspects of Independence Day and other alien invasion things. KADO, The Right Answer, KADO. Koro Sensei Quest! ! Shorts. This is just kind of weird, tweaky stuff. It's this skews a little bit young, with magic assassins and this kind of Harry Potter-like magic school. It doesn't really work for me. It's too derivative of Harry Potter. Monster Hunter Stories Ride On Season 1 Part 2 is basically about a kid who's a monster rider, and it doesn't really go any further than that. It kind of skews young as well. Didn't really do anything for me. Puzzle and Dragons X Part 2, terrific animation, really, really interesting. Deals with it's again more, it's kind of Joseph Campbell mythical stuff about a kid who learns to be a dragon caller, which are, humans who can, it's better than Monster Hunter, humans who can conscript dragons and make dragons their servants and their allies and so forth. Puzzle and Dragons X Part 2. And then 2 more here. Super Lovers Season 2 is just really well written. There's nothing here spectacular, nothing here science fiction-y or fantasy or genre. It's just about a really, a powerful relationship that goes into some interesting directions and could just as easily have been a live action film. And then lastly, Tokyo Ghoul the movie. This is again, like all the others, is a Blu-ray DVD combo pack, and it's about a guy whose only way of surviving is to become half human and half ghoul. And once that saves his life, then he finds that he has a kind of like a. It's like one of the I guess I want a best thing to compare it to Blade, maybe, because Blade is right. He's part human, he's part vampire,
yeah.
And he has to sort of deal with the appetites and the friction between those two things,
exactly, and manage it.
Try to manage it. So that's a little bit what Tokyo Ghoul is. It's kind of like a supernatural version of Blade, or a more supernatural, more ghostly version of Blade. And that is our anime. Tim, what do we got? Let's do some classic stuff from Arrow.
I guess the business that we have here, correct?
Yeah.
The bird with the crystal plumage, Dario Argento.
I'm so sick of him.
What are you going to do?
Not his daughter. She's
Asia.
awesome.
Asia's fantastic. You know what I liked about this movie? It's even in 1970, I was into Tony Mastante.
Yeah.
Who went on to play Toma
a
few years later, an Italian detective cop series or something like that, and Stingray and all this kind of stuff like that. That's the thing I actually liked about this movie. It's a movie about a guy who's a writer living in Rome. He sees this horrible murder happen in this art gallery, but he can't do anything about it. He becomes a bit obsessed with it and starts investigating what happened himself to see if he might have seen something to lead to finding the killer. And, it's at the top of the Giallo sort of, is this his first Giallo film? Might have been.
No, it might have been.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Anyway, brand new 4K restoration of the film from the original camera negative, which is kind of amazing. High definition Blu-ray presentation. Lots of neat stuff on here, including an essay by Dario and a few other people. So if you're a fan of Dario and all of his work, sure, you're going to want to grab this. I sort of grew out of my Giallo phase about 45 years ago. I think. So it's not my kind of thing particularly. Re-Animator, 1985. This was a fun movie.
That's such a classic. And it's funny because normally, it's Frankenstein, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's a knockoff of Frankenstein, but somehow, man, with Stuart Gordon and that whole crowd, he just found a new way into it.
Yeah, adaptation of the Lovecraft, of course. And it just really is a movie that really just never gets old. Looks a little dated in some ways, but I actually like it better than most of what happens in this movie now would be done with CGI.
Yeah.
But it's all practical effects in this. Re-Animator from Arrow. Again, 4K restoration, unrated version, high definition Blu-ray, subtitles, isolated score, just more and more and more and more stuff. Just a fantastic collection of things on a wonderful movie.
And that
2000 Maniacs.
Yeah.
What do you know about 2000 Maniacs, man?
2000 Maniacs is kind of a notorious film.
Herschel Gordon Lewis.
Yeah, it's not. It was 1963, so it's early. It's one of the original gore things, but it's not very good.
But what I liked about it is it's set in the Deep South, and a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So Texas Chainsaw Massacre and whatever. And you have these people, they go down there in the Deep South, and these townspeople in this hick town just, they start killing them.
They also include, they also include Moonshine Mountain, which was an even more uninteresting movie. But Moonshine Mountain is, from from 1964. Wow, that's really interesting. No, there's a lot of stuff on here, tons here, including David Friedman, the Gentleman Smut Peddler, a tribute to David Friedman. We interviewed. Were you there the day we interviewed?
Oh yeah,
David Friedman?
for Schlock.
For Schlock. Yeah. He's just such a great guy. David Friedman, of course, produced all of Herschel Gordon Lewis's stuff. Excuse me. 2000 Maniacs. Yeah, it's another great one from Arrow.
Angry at the Yankees. Angry at the Yankees.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
Let's see. I'm going to do some Twilight Time here. We got 4 new ones from Twilight Time, which you can get at twilightimemovies.com or screenarchives.com. This is a great selection. Every month they come up with such interesting stuff. I'm going to save the best for last here. And I'm going to start with Autofocus. Autofocus is one of the more recent Twilight Time releases. If you didn't see it, Paul Schrader made a movie back in 2002 that was detailing the Bob Crane affair. Now, Bob Crane, of course, played Hogan on Hogan's Heroes and had, apart from being a star, had a rather bizarre double life that resulted in his death.
Yes.
That got into some nasty little...
I remember that when it all actually happened.
I do too. And it was, as it was slowly divulged, the sex parties and the movies. And
movies, yeah. He had a fetish with porn and making porn in Vegas. I think it was Vegas, right?
It's just nasty and weird and creepy. It really is. And, too bad Mark's not here because Mark knows Greg Kinnear. And Greg Kinnear pretty much kills it playing Bob Crane. He really nails it. It's great casting. Willem Dafoe is even creepier than he's ever been, and he's really creepy. But anyway, it all goes south in a horrible, horrible way, which makes this a very unpleasant movie to watch in many ways. But it's still a really interesting story, and it's a very well done movie. And it's one of the better things that Paul Schrader has done over the last 20 some odd years.
Yeah, it's in his bailiwick.
It is
of that sort of thing. I think a guy eventually got convicted of that murder, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all here. It's just amazing trajectory how it destroys his family and everything else. It's really interesting. From the 1950s, we have another couple that are really interesting, Blue Denim and No Down Payment. No Down Payment was made in 1957 and is one of the lesser-known films by Martin Ritt, I think, because it's kind of not exactly what he normally does, but what an amazing cast, what an absolutely wonderful, wonderful cast. Tony Randall and Jeffrey Hunter and Patricia Owens and Pat Hingle. It's just a really, really interesting movie, and it's especially if you live in California. This represents a particular part of California history that is so fascinating, and you see the remnants of it wherever you go. It just deals with, California had a lot of development in the 1950s. It really kind of exploded under Governor Pat Brown in particular, and who is Jerry Brown's dad. And this deals with people in a particular neighborhood and all of, I guess, a Peyton Place-y kind of way. Mm-hmm. I guess best way to put it is Peyton Place in a California suburban area, and all of the different things that go on. It's really, really interesting. And most interesting is that it was written by Ben Maddow, who was a blacklisted writer at the time, but Philip Yordan took the credit. So Philip Yordan's name still appears on it, but just know that Ben Maddow actually wrote this during the blacklist period. And then the other film, Blue Denim, is an extraordinarily powerful Philip Dunn movie. Philip Dunn didn't really make much of a name as a director of kind of high-profile movies, but this is really one of his best. It's outstanding. Carol Lindley, Brandon DeWild, MacDonald Carey, really just a superb story, written by Edith Summer and Philip Dunn and produced by Charles Brackett.
Yep.
Charles Brackett, after he'd gone out on to be a producer independent of Billy Wilder. This was made in 1959, same year as Ben-Hur. So that's why it's a little bit forgotten, because nobody remembers anything from 59 other than Ben-Hur. But this is basically about a couple of teenagers dealing with an unwanted pregnancy. And that's not something that you get normally in a movie from the 1950s. But it's dealt with here in a really mature way, very sensitively. It's quite powerful, and it's done as well as I think any movie in the period could have done it. And then the last one here is my favorite, Model Shop. Jacques Demy, who of course did Umbrellas of Cherbourg and The Young Women of Rochefort. Jacques Demy made a really interesting movie in 1969 with Model Shop. And what he did was he decided to make an English language film set in Los Angeles where he brought back in characters from all of his previous movies, which he does to varying degrees of success. Most notably, he brings back Anouk Aimé's Lola from the movie Lola, but other characters come in as well. So it's sort of it makes it clear that this is part of a world like the Jacques Demy cinematic universe, like Marvel universe. Really quite interesting. Gary Lockwood, right after 2001, gives another fine performance here, and it's also a really wonderful Los Angeles movie. It's very it's kind of a love letter to Los Angeles, much as his two French musicals were to their respective cities. So I just think it's wonderful. It has a great isolated music track with tremendous songs that were composed by Spirit. It's really a cool film of the era, but one of the most interesting films from Jacques Demy's filmography. And if you've seen the other movies, you will absolutely get a huge kick out of it.
Cool. Want to pop over and do?
Let's. We got a bunch of Kinos here. So these are. Let's hit the Kino pile.
The first one I'll go with here, Paul Newman as Governor Huey Long in Blaze. This was a really neat 1989 film that I really enjoyed. Lolita Davidovich,
who I see at the market all the time.
I run into her around and about too. Ron Shelton, early Ron Shelton film. He would go on to direct Bull.
And they went on to marry. They're married. Now. That's why she doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't have to. When married to Ron Shelton, White Men Can't Jump, Todd, all that kind of 10 Cup. It's his sort of bailiwick. This would have been actually a different kind of movie for Ron Shelton at the time. Loosely based, of course, on the book by Blaze Starr, who was a fairly noted stripper back in the day, who had an affair with Governor Earl K. Long.
Really well played by
Paul Newman. It's really a neat story, and it's all about the effect that she has on him and his politics and what he does. It's kind of Bulworth before Bulworth, really.
Yeah.
So neat movie. Written for the screen by Ron Shelton. Audio commentary from the director on the movie too.
And another Ron Shelton commentary, a really good one on a lesser film, Play It to the Bone, one of his sports films. This was a boxing film with Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas. Not sure that this is really a terribly good movie, but his commentary is really, really quite good.
Lolita was still hanging around.
Lolita is, of course, in this as well, as is Tom Sizemore and Lucy Liu before we really knew what she was capable of. This was made in 1999. It's I guess it's White Men Can't Jump in a boxing ring is maybe the better way to put it. But Woody Harrelson is great, but I especially enjoy Antonio Banderas in this. It's not deep, it's not great, but it's a Ron Shelton movie. You'll get a kick out of it.
It's that thing that he does. Ron Shelton. Jim Abrams. I love me some Jim Abrams. Back to Airplane and Before, Top Secret, Val Kilmer, all that good stuff, Hot Shots. Part deux. He made a movie called Mafia with Bette Midler. He made Mafia too, but
I got Mafia.
You got Mafia over there,
yeah.
But he made this movie, a Big Business. Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin. Tomlin and Bette Midler, kind of at that height of their sort of middle '80s sort of comeback period that they were both having when Bette was doing, Wind Beneath My Wings and all that kind of stuff like that. This was a very, very cute film. In the vein of the stuff that they did. So, to that extent, it's kind of cute. Audio commentary by director Jim Abrams and a few other things on the DVD.
And the other Abrams film is Mafia. Now, the correct title of this, without which you don't really understand it, is Jane Austen's Mafia. It's Jane Austen's Mafia. And the idea is that this was 1998 when we were getting a lot of Jane Austen movies, right? We were getting Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson, and we were getting
the whole mess
Emma.
Of
we had Emma. Emma was being released.
There was one with Minnie Driver. Yeah.
There were a bunch of them. There were like 4, 5, 6 of them all in the span of about 2 or 3 years. So he made a movie that was taking pot shots at both Jane Austen movies and at The Godfather. And so he made Jane Austen's Mafia, which is not terribly funny, I hate to say. But again, it's a really good commentary. It's a better commentary. I remember this very well. I did the junket for this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I did the junket for this. I remember it very, very well. And it was actually a really fun junket. Abrams I felt badly for not liking the movie better.
Yeah.
Because he was so enthusiastic, and Jay Moore was just really animated.
Young Jay Moore, he's like,
And it was a good junket. Olympia Dukakis is very funny. Christina Applegate was very, very funny in it. Everybody's funny, but the movie just isn't. I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, it has really good commentary, and so I'll recommend it just for the commentary alone.
This is a pretty neat movie. Bo Svenson and Sybil Shepherd in Special Delivery. I remember this.
I see him at the market too.
You run into him all the time too?
Every time I see him at the market, all I can think of is, Ivan, did you see the sunrise? Bam! I'm so glad Magnum killed you, man.
Oh man. The one time Magnum pulled the trigger.
Oh, thank goodness.
Paul Windicos made this neat little movie. This is a neat movie. It's really just a bank robbery movie. It's set in Los Angeles. Back in the day, you'd have been hanging around. This is middle '76. You'd have been like a kid when they were.
Oh yeah.
Running around Los Angeles. Sybil Shepherd looking fantastic. Brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the original 35mm negative. This was a Paramount film. It was a neat film. I actually liked this quite a lot. Sybil is fantastic in this movie.
So got a couple of wacky comedies here from the 1970s. Both of them rated, well, one of them is rated G, the other one's rated GP, which is kind of like PG of a previous era, which would be a G today. So they're both rated G. Let's put it that way. These are also both from the ABC Picture Corporation, which doesn't really exist anymore. But so they come from a very particular sensibility in the 1970s. The earlier one from 1970 is a Jackie Gleason movie called How Do I Love Thee? And it dates a little bit, but I mean, come on. Jackie Gleason and Shelley Winters, give me a break. I mean, Maureen O'Hara is wonderful, but you know, just a movie that has Jackie Gleason and Shelley Winters in it is a movie I want to see. And I still enjoy this. It's dated, directed by Michael Gordon, 1970, but it's still kind of fun. And it's one of those 70s era farces that packs too many people into too many preposterous situations.
A 70s era farce that should have been made in the 60s.
Exactly. It should have been made it should have been made around the same time as Mad World.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of some of those sensibilities, but it's based on a book apparently by Peter DeVries, who wrote Pete and Tilly. And you know, the cast is wonderful. The one that's much more my speed is Mastermind, which is a Charlie Chan spoof, starring Zero Mostel in Yellowface, which again is acceptable only because it is a spoof. And Mostel just completely kills it. In 1976, it's a little bit late for a movie like this, but it really it takes pot shots at the whole Charlie Chan movie genre in such a beautiful way. It's not quite a Peter Sellers Clouseau thing, but it kind of winks at that a little bit as well. So I think you can have a lot of fun with this. Directed by Alex March, 1976, Mastermind, a comedy from the 70s that has kind of disappeared a little bit.
Yeah, don't do those anymore. Feast of July. Feast of July is a 1995 film that's really kind of interesting in that it is a sort of Merchant Ivory-esque film that doesn't have anything to do with James Ivory. James Ivory, Ismail Merchant did produce it. But Ivory is really not connected to it. It's a lovely film adaptation. It's about a young woman that goes to live with this family that in which there are these three sons, and you know, obviously the three sons all fall for her. And she chooses one, and tragic circumstances ensue. Ben Chaplin is one of the sons. I think it might have been the first or second time that I ever saw Ben Chaplin in the film here. But it's a perfectly beautiful movie of a sort of Merchant Ivory type. And it's a gorgeous movie, too. It's just beautifully, beautifully shot. Audio commentary by the director. 1995, Feast of July.
A wonderful, the last one here from Kino is a really wonderful Western kind of romantic comedy. This movie has been kind of buried a little bit. 1943, A Lady Takes a Chance with Jean Arthur and John Wayne. I had completely forgotten that Jean Arthur and John Wayne ever appeared in anything together, because Jean Arthur we normally associate with Cary Grant in particular. Just a wonderful actress. And John Wayne we don't really associate with anything particularly light.
Yeah.
You know, certainly not this light.
Yeah, and 43, that's not that early. I mean,
no,
because he had been doing those little softy cowboy movies in the 30s.
But it's a romantic comedy western, and
Joe Swirling. Oh,
it's just absolutely delightful. It's so sweet, and I mean, it's exactly what you would expect it to be, which is, Wayne plays the cowboy, and she's kind of the girl that gets all the cowboys to love her, and it's a meet cute, and love each other, hate each other, love each other, hate each other, and you go through all those kinds of the usual genre ups and downs. But she plays it tough, she plays it fun. He plays it light, and he's vulnerable, and it's just really, really delightful. It really is an incredibly sweet film. It's a pleasure to watch, and they did a great job with this transfer. This is taken. This is an HD master. This is a Blu-ray HD master from a 4K scan of the original 35 millimeter nitrate negative. And the nitrate fine grain. So, I mean, the Paramount gave them the very best elements that they had, and they absolutely got the most beautiful look. The only thing that'll make this look better is releasing it in 4K.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just absolutely terrific.
The House That Dripped Blood. This is an interesting little anthology of films. Actually, it's just one film with four storylines, four little stories within the films. The movie's about this house in the UK. It's like mostly an unoccupied house. These terrible things happen at this house, and we have a detective who's investigating all these things. Nice. But they're kind of like these four little standalone stories that are sort of interesting to me. One of Peter Cushing is in one of them, but the one that I like, Denholm Elliott is in one of them. But the one that I like the most is the one about the guy with the black cape, and that stars John Pertwee, who of course was like the third Doctor.
Right.
In the Doctor Who series.
Right.
So, by the way, if you watch Gotham, the guy that plays Alfred on Gotham, which is the television version of the Young Batman series, that's John Pertwee's son.
Oh, that's right. Sean Pertwee. That's right.
So anyway, a little notch there. Anyway, this was really cool. Vampires, a little voodoo, kind of sexy. The House That Dripped Blood, from the author, by the way, of Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
The book.
Robert Bloch, who also wrote an episode of Star Trek, the original Star Trek series, which is Cat's Eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Robert Bloch. And then lastly, we're going to go out with a sensational new Blu-ray from the Warner Archive Collection. Sensational. So much great stuff in the Warner Library, and boy, did they get a great one here. George Cukor, directing the amazing, wonderful adaptation of Cole Porter's Lay Girls with Gene Kelly, Mitzi Gaynor, Kay Kendall. This is an absolutely wonderful, wonderful musical. The best people doing it. It's just, this is one of those things where all the elements came into perfect alignment. The stars completely aligned, and it's just that great Cole Porter music. It's with Mitzi Gaynor and Gene Kelly. It just doesn't get any better. It really is a wonderful film. George Cukor just nails it in every conceivable way. This was made in 1957, right kind of, on the cusp. The next year, you got Gigi, and then the 60s gave us all of those great musicals, including 1964, when Cukor would win Best Director for Best Picture, My Fair Lady. So this is kind of, you can see Cukor flexing those muscles. He's a veteran already at this stage, but he still has his best work yet to come. And this thing won an Oscar for costume design that it totally, absolutely deserved. And it's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful story. So if you haven't seen Lay Girls, it's good to see on stage.
Yeah.
But man, what a great movie. Gene Kelly, never better. All right. With that, we are done.
So glad Mark.
That was great. That was great having him for a show and a few. And we will be back next week. Hopefully, Hollywood will not come apart at the seams. And I'm going to keep trying to get to the bottom of what's happening with Oppo. That just is mystifying everybody. But I want to get the story on that.
I think it has something to do with the Russians.
It very well could.